Morning, good morning, good morning. Didn't get much sleep last night. Ain't gonna be no sewing this morning. Sorry. Good morning. Sorry if that annoys you. I didn't get much sleep last night or the night before. I go through periods like this, so forgive me. There's probably not gonna be any sewing on this today. I will give verbal instructions and then I'll write something up on my blog, and my blog post will probably be delayed because some days it just don't pay to get up. So, for those of you who have been sewing along, thank you. I need to reach out. Oh my gosh, I've got a hair that's doing something funny. Anyway, too bad. For those of you who have been following along, I just love that y'all think I'm important enough to follow along. I did design this in EQ8, and this is the very first quilt I've actually designed on paper. I do tend to just start sewing, and then it's like an improv thing where I just take whatever direction I feel for that day. And this is the actual first one I've actually planned out, put it on paper, and I'm very, very satisfied with the results. It's a very formal looking quilt for a sampler quilt. Sometimes sampler quilts can be, I'm not going to say goofy looking, but sometimes sampler quilts don't have the homogeneous look to them. This one has a homogeneous look where we've got everything mixed all about in two colorways, and it's working. So I'm very, very satisfied with this. And looking at this on camera is completely different than looking at it in real life. So that's the trick about sometimes sewing. It looks great in front of your eye. It looks great 6 foot across the room. It looks great as you walk into the room. But then when you go to take a picture, you notice things that you don't notice with your own eye. This quilt has a little bit of that. That gold right there. So, let me scoot out of the way. Let's talk about this. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I had a thought about this last week. What happens if I would turn these blocks, every one of them, and when I say turn them, I mean the blue will be on the outside. Okay? And then remake these in blue. Where I do like a dark blue here and a light blue here, and then a dark blue here and a light blue here. I thought about doing that, but time got in the way, so I didn't do that. Thought about that. I wish that I could have found a panel, a 24-inch panel to put inside of this. And I may leave this apart because I just don't like that one. I may leave this apart and just happen upon a panel. I mean, this kind of, you could almost go Christmassy with this. You could put some Christmas scene in here, as long as, snow, blue. Okay, Um, I guess I should ask if y'all can hear me. I didn't ask that, sorry. I haven't went live in quite a while, so, and I had to go live early this morning because the rest of the house has a schedule and I don't want to disrupt it, so, um, I've thought many things on this. I've also thought about making it bigger where I would make some size churn dash, maybe a 6-inch churn dash to go all the way around this as a border. I think that would look fantastic, but then I would have to get out. I've already packed up all my blues and put them away, and that means I'd have to get them back out. And we all know when you are knee deep in your stash that it's a good time to do things, and then when you're not, it's not a good time to do things. um, I don't know what y'all's stash is like. Mine, basically, my scraps are in I don't know how many gallons. I think that's a 30-gallon tote. It might be bigger. And then I have probably a 50-gallon tote full of fabric, and then I have a dresser full of fabric. And each thing I kind of segregate out. I have my neutrals in 2 drawers, and I have a cafe drawer. I have a fat quarter drawer, and then I have all of my yardage folded up nice and neatly to where, I don't know, I probably need to show how I keep my stuff. Anyway, this is very controlled scrappy. There are things I don't like about this quilt. I'm not gonna lie. I hate this block. I hate it. I hate it. It's better than the first one I made. Am I gonna leave it in there? Yes. I think that all quilters grow, and I think that by leaving it in there one day when I get this out and I go back and I look at it, I'm still not gonna like it. But I'm also going to know that the mistakes that I made in the fabric selection on that block, I learned a lot from that, and I probably won't do it again. There was a whole quilt that I did. I did Adita Sitar's free mystery quilt last year. I actually did 2 of them. The first one I did in greens and neutrals. And when I say neutrals, I mean neutrals like this. And I chose loud neutrals. And I chose really light green fabrics. And the beautiful quilt, the pattern that she had designed just totally got washed out. I gave that quilt away. I gave it to charity. But I then went extreme and remade it in black and yellow. And the contrast to that was spectacular. I've gotten a lot of compliments on that quilt. So, okay. So if you're here to sew along, I know it's early, I'm sorry. And for those of you catching this on the replay, thank you. And for those of you who are my new subscribers, I just got several new subscribers in the last week. Thank you so much, I appreciate it. For those of you who are returning and you are a veteran to this channel, I so appreciate that too. Basically, you're just going to sew these together in your rows, and you're going to choose if you want to press your seams that way on that one, and that way on that one. That way, you can. You can sew this together. I know that enough quilters, by the time you get to this stage, after all the pressing we've done, you kind of know how things are going. You kind of wing it. That's my nemesis, pressing, the directions for pressing. So, I never follow a pattern. I just do what I want. And sometimes, yeah, I get bulky seams, but so. You will also add I think it's a 2-inch border. It might be a 2.5-inch border. And you're just going to cut your strips. I think this measures right now at, let's see, 40. It should measure at 48.5. So you would cut 2 strips at 48.5, And then, let's see, math, early in the morning. You would add 2.5 inches. No, I don't know. Anyway, you could also put cornerstones in it to where you'd cut 2.5 inch squares and just cut 4 strips, 2.5 inch strips, at 48.5 inches, and then turn around and cut 4 squares at 2.5 inches and put them in the corners. Yeah, this is very. It turned out beautiful. It's just timing, you know. I sat on this. I wanted to go live with this, and so I did not sew any of this together. I had plenty of time. I wanted to, and because I wanted to go live, here I am, and now I don't even want to do it. And it's just because of timing. I'll probably finish this up over the holidays, and I probably will go live with that too. Okay. Enough about that. Okay, so I have been utilizing my scraps. This is how I work things. When I was working this, I would end up with scrap pieces, and I just sit them in a pile next to my machine. And as I went along, the pile grew. Sometimes I'd be able to take from the pile while I was making this, and sometimes the pile just grew. After I get done with a project, whatever is sitting on my table in that pile, I sort through it. Do I have any 2.5 inch strips? Do I have any strings? I segregate my strings. Those get put away. They're all nicely ironed and put away to where whenever I go to make my string project, which yes, I've got that languishing, I can just whip it out pretty fast. But my other pieces, I run them through my AccuQuilt, and so this is all scraps. Let's see. Go over. So these are my scraps from my leftovers of my 365 quilt block challenge, and I threw a bunch of those scraps away because you were cutting insanely small pieces at like less than an inch. Sometimes finished in the quilt block, they were 1/2 inch pieces. So I made this. This was a free pattern offered by, oh, what is her name? She was doing the color challenge. I don't know, she's something Brown. I don't remember what her name is. Anyway, I utilized a bunch of my scrap fabrics that I had laying on the table, and this took lickety split to make. So this has been laying around. I haven't even used it. It's going unappreciated. Yeah, it'll get used one day. But after I get my scraps together and run them through, I store them in a shoebox. And these were all sitting on my table from the last couple months, and I trimmed them all down. I now have to sort them, and I sort them by colorway and put them in there. This was completely, stuffed full. You see how much, oh, sorry. You see how much is lacking in each one of these. I've depleted this box by maybe a third. Because while I was making this, I was only sewing the blocks on the weekends and then writing patterns and then editing videos, and that would take all weekend. And so during the week I wanted to do something else. So I got out this bucket of scraps, 2-inch scraps, and I sewed something. And I'm using what I have, so I didn't go buy fancy fabric. I bought a bolt of Riley Blake. I don't know what this color is. It's tan. It's tan. And I now have a simple 9-patch quilt that this took me 2 days. And then another day, and I say a day, an afternoon to sew the rows together. So, I'm not going to unfold this. You'll be able to see it. I've got it. If you go to my community page, I have what it kind of somewhat looks like. I asked for voting, and then I never uploaded a video, and then nobody went and voted. I feel like an idiot. You know, it's okay. But so one evening while I was watching Sobeka, I pieced 60 of these. 60. And what, she streams for maybe 3 hours at the most. And then as things worked out, I would sew a few more. Each time I would just walk by my sewing machine, I'd sew a few more. And then again on, I think it was Mom and Pop's 12-hour stream, which was last weekend, I had all my pieces all laid down on my design wall. And all I had to do was sew the rows together, and that did take me all day. But again, you know, we're interrupted. I have children, so I had to cook, baths, had to help the kids with baths. My time wasn't completely spent on that. And then the following day, I think I ended up measuring the quilt and then sewing on the last border. So I'm going to say that I have maybe 7 hours in that, all because my pieces were all pre-cut. The hardest part I had to do was match up my pieces. So if I didn't have 5, like, if I didn't have 5 of turquoise, I would have to figure out how I wanted, what fabrics I'd want to go into the block. Hi, Sandra Kay. Hi, Janet Johnson. Guess who, Nancy? Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for being here, ladies. I'm yakking away. I'm not going to be on here very long. As you can see, I'm not sewing this together. But I am sharing what I am working on. And let's see. So I also got out, since I had my AccuQuilt out and I was cutting up my scraps, my leftover scraps, I have seen Corey Yoder's sheep quilt. So it's a sheep block, and then in the body of the sheep, she puts like an Ohio star. I just think that's so cool. And guess what? I'm too cheap to buy the pattern. I'd rather buy fabric than the pattern. So I like to figure patterns out. And I thought, what could I do? I've got my AccuQuilt. How could I make that happen? And so I got out my schoolhouse die. And I was like, well, let me see what I can come up with. So I just played around. I'm like, okay, I need a 4.5-inch square for whatever my my design block will be for the side of the schoolhouse. And I came up with this, and I'm probably going to make something like this because I really like it. So, yeah. I like it. It's not sewed on. None of this is appliqued down. I just pinned it on the fabric. But I really like that it's different. Oh, Lord. They're out. And why is this not letting? Hang on a second. We've got trolls. support. Gosh, it's 6 in the morning. Come on, trolls. Well, that's a first. I guess because we're live. Sorry about that, everyone. So, I like how this is going to turn out, so I probably will dabble with this. And for those of you who don't know this, I do have a blog. I've had my blog now for about 8 years. Be looking for something to develop on that. And I'll give instructions. Thank you, Sandra. I like the house too, and I like the idea of creating a block within a block. So I probably will do something with this. It's fun. And then I am doing my socialites. How many of you are sewing along with Fat Quarter Shop and their free pattern that they have out called Socialites? It's just a block a week. You have 3 options. You have a 3-inch, 6-inch, or 9-inch block. I'm doing the 6-inch, and I think the 6-inch quilt will end up being, I want to say it ends up being 66 or something like that. I don't know. The 3-inch version, I think, ends up being like 48 inches. And I don't remember what the 9-inch ends up being. It's quite a bit larger. But this was yesterday's block. I'm totally going against the grain. I love quilts with black backgrounds. I just love it. I love making them. I do have a bolt of Riley Blake black, so I'm utilizing what I have again. All of these are just hodgepodge pieces of scraps, whether it's a fat quarter or smaller. Some of this could be yardage, and I'm sewing these up in very bright, bold colors, and I'm liking where this is going. And I forget how many weeks this goes on. I don't know if any of you watch Pat Sloan. She's probably streaming right now. I'll have to go back and watch her stream. But she's also doing this, and yesterday she showed where she was having her setting blocks. And that is where I'm going to really change gears with my setting blocks, because I've got fabric that has black background, but the motif in the background will totally change. It won't, I don't know. I'll just have to play with it. Now that I have this, I can get sewing on this, and then I can start sewing my setting blocks, which are just half square triangles in like an Ohio star. They're in friendship stars as well. And I love this block. This is my favorite block. The stripes on this add some kind of visual eye trick. It's just fabric, but it looks really kind of fancy. I don't know how I managed to do that, but I like the fabric selection for that one. And then, again, I deviated. You're supposed to have like a colored print inside, and I did not do that. I'm really liking how these are turning out. And this one's probably my least favorite. Probably the hardest one to make. The purple that I selected is really too dark against the black background. Thank you, Sandra K. Thank you. So I'm sewing along with this. I'm caught up. I'm enjoying that. And you know, I know that a lot of you are sewing for the holidays. And I am not sewing for the holidays. I do not. My personal preference is when you sew for the holidays, you put so much work into it, and then you can only view it about a month out of the year. So I don't make those quilts, but one day I might. Who knows? Who knows? What are all of you working on? If you're even sewing right now, because it is early. Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to change the settings for this to where people can't comment unless they're subscribed. They're out early today. Oh yeah, Janet. Yeah, that's the thing. I've always wondered about that. So here in the America, I live in Texas, so I think a couple times since I've lived here, in the 30 years I've lived here, we've had a white Christmas. But pretty much, we're lucky to see snow once a year, and when we do, it's not measurable. But Christmas is centered around winter themed things here, like, snowmen, snowflakes. Santa himself is an icon for it being cold and in a heavy coat. And I always wondered how different it was in the southern hemisphere, which, Janet Johnson, you're there, so you know. Yeah, I bet it's really hot. Because I mean, that's the peak of this, right at the solstice, so that would be probably the warmest. Since it's the shortest day of the year for us, it will be the longest day of the year for you, therefore it's hotter. Yeah. Yeah. I always wondered about that. As a child, I always wondered how Santa would go to someone's house without snow and go down a chimney that, wasn't lit in the southern hemisphere. I always wondered that as a child. Yeah, it's about the middle of your summer, yeah. Texas, Texas has wild weather. I mean, I was born in the Midwest at minus 50 degrees below zero. Not Celsius, but Fahrenheit. And then I had a birthday. I'm going to say I was about 20. I was between 25 and 32, somewhere around in there. I think I was between 25 and 30. And on my birthday, it got up to 96 degrees in Texas. Let's think about that for a moment. That is almost a 150-degree difference in my lifetime in on my birthday. That's just wild when you break it down like that. So of course I'm sewing things and dabbling in scraps. I'm a scrappy quilter. Very rarely do I get out yardage and make something with, like, what I just showed you on that 9 patch, where I use a bolt of fabric for the background. Usually it's usually pretty scrappy. I used to follow Bonnie Hunter, and I've learned lots and lots of stuff from her. So if y'all are just getting into scrappy quilts and how to make them, she would be an excellent choice. I think she has a quilt-along going on. I think it started on Black Friday. I have given up doing those quilts. I have given away all my Bonnie Hunter made quilts. I made Good Fortune. I made On Ringo Lake. I made On Provence. And the one that did me in was Frolic. All of those quilts, gave them away. And I don't know, I think the piece count in some of those was close to 12,000 pieces. Well, that's a very nice temperature for the middle of the summer. Here in Texas, in the middle of the summer, our evenings can be as warm as 87 degrees Fahrenheit, which I'm going to say that's probably close to 30 degrees Celsius, maybe 30, 31 degrees Celsius. Um, and then sometimes we have freak of nature weather, and sometimes it's down in the 50s. You just never know with this state. Um, uh, how many of you, I know you're quilters, so you're a maker. How many of you create different things other than quilts? I mean, besides sewing in general. Are you a creator using like a crochet hook or knitting? Uh, oh, okay, Janet. Well, I hope you survive. And I hope you have air conditioning, because air conditioning makes everything tolerable. Yeah. That's why I didn't go live all summer long, because it's so hot in our house. We have to run high velocity fans, and those fans are very noisy, and there is no way that the microphone would even be able to. I'd have to compete with the fans. It's deafening. We have to run 3 high velocity fans to circulate the air, because we just have window units. Um, you have knitted since you were a child. That's fantastic. Yeah, ceiling fans do help. We also have those too. They run all year. Right now they're running in the opposite direction to circulate the air in the house. They never get turned off. Yeah, ceiling fans. That's something that's a southern thing here. I guess because the temperature is always warmer than everywhere else. Okay. Sandra K says I knit, crochet, and also counted cross stitch. I've done counted cross stitch. It's been probably 30 years since I've picked it up, but so I have no anything. I don't have any cloth or anything, so I don't see myself starting that back up. But now I do tat. And this week, we had last weekend off. It was wonderful having the Thanksgiving holiday off. I took 6 days off, 2 of which were paid, and then the other 2 I added to it. And then, of course, the weekend. And it was just so nice to have my own schedule and not have to be cracking the whip to someone else's schedule. And so I got lots of sewing done. And then during the week, you go back to work and you're like, oh. And so I have my sewing machine is set up on a buffet, and I stand when I sew. And so if I've been on my feet all day at work, usually I don't want to come home and sew. And that's starting to creep in more and more as I age. Thank you, Janet Johnson. Thank you. Yes, everybody, thumbs up, thumbs up. I have been tatting, and I decided to make snowflakes. I'm going to give these to my son for his Christmas tree. I don't really have a good background to show this. I guess my shirt. They look like snowflakes. And I'm working on another one. These snowflakes take about 3 hours. So they're an evening. This one took more than 3 hours, just because I just didn't get my act together on this one. I'd go to do something and I have to undo it. I've been working on these, and I just love them. This one turned out so pretty. So pretty. And none of these are perfect. There's mistakes in these, and I left them in. I didn't undo some of it, so I just love this. So I've been working on snowflakes. I wanted to do that where I tatted up a bunch of snowflakes and then give it to them for Christmas, but last year I didn't have my act together. I need to get my act together, people. Do I have anything else? No, I don't have anything else. Do y'all have any questions? Are any of you sewing along on this? If you're watching this after the live, ask your questions in the comment section. If I will try and clarify or answer any of your questions that you may have. I know that my pattern writing skills are lacking, and my YouTube videos were, I was winging it as I was going. I didn't try out to make the block first and then make it, and so there's wrong measurements that I had to edit out. And I actually made one block completely the wrong size. But you know, I'm human, so. And was it a waste of fabric? No, because it's just scraps. I just made more scraps. Yes, UFOs. Oh, UFOs bring me down. I have a lot of UFOs too, and I have one in particular. I have my box put up, but I started I'm not sure how to say this. It's a Millefiori quilt by Willie Hammerstein, and it's called the La Pascaglia, I think is how you say it. Anyway, it's all English paper piecing, and I've got 3 rosettes done in the last year and a half. Yeah, I haven't done very much stitching on that, and I actually got it out to work another medallion. I'm in the mood, and so I picked my fabrics, and that's about as far as I got. So that'll probably be my 15-year project, because I mean, there are those of us who like to hand sew, and then there are those of us who don't, and I don't mind it. I have hand binding my quilts all the time, but I find that hand sewing and my eyesight and the lighting in my house just is not that great. So, oh my goodness, 6 quilt tops. I bet I've got 5, but I have a long arm, so I'll be able to whip those out this summer. That's another thing. If I had my long arm at my house, I'd be able to just, you know, after I run it under the machine and sew all my pieces together, I'd just be able to go ahead and load it on my long arm and quilt, and that's not happening. Oh, I do have something else I can show you. Hang on just a second. I'm probably going to get off here pretty quick because Sean will probably be going live soon, so I don't want to encroach on him. I have been making prairie points, and I have a coworker who likes dragons, and he is expecting his first child. And I was using a great big 12-inch ruler and cutting my strips at 12 inches with the fabric, and then using this ruler to make cuts, and then you fold your pieces into your prairie points, and then you have continuous prairie points. And that was so fiddly. You'd scoot it across the ironing board and everything would flip-flop the wrong way, and I just got tired of it. So I got my scraps out, which I don't have to cut 12 inches, I can cut 6. This is a 6-inch square that's folded twice. And I'm doing it in a theme of green, so I have lots of greens. I mean, I'm trying to mimic scales of a dragon. I know he's going to love this. I have a jacket that's a rag jacket, and he always comments that he likes it. So he's going to love this. But, again, because my long arm's not in my house, I haven't been able to get to it, and because it's in a garage, it's too cold now. So his baby quilt's going to have to be delayed unless we get like a warm snap where it gets up in the 70s and 80s, which last week there was one day that it did get up to the 70s. Yes, okay, so that will be something I will be definitely posting on my blog. Let me go ahead and fetch my blog information. Hang on just a second. So I will definitely post that on the blog, and I probably will do a tutorial on it. And this is where you can find all my instructions for the quilt. Okay. And I'm going to pin this to the top. Okay, so the message that I pinned at the top is my actual website for my blog, myquiltprojects.wordpress.com, and I can't fit everything into YouTube. Sometimes I fail to take video. Most of the time I'm capturing photos, and that quilt it got started in August when it was way too hot to quilt in the garage. Then I worked on it a lot in September because it cooled off, and now here I am just making these, trying to get to a point where I can get in there and sew or quilt. And I have failed to take a picture of that every time I was down there. I will try and get something uploaded on YouTube, but it's gonna have to warm up. I don't want to run my machine. Maybe I'll just take a short video and just show you what I'm doing. It really has a neat 3D effect. I'm taking a backing and batting, and I'm just lining these up like this and sewing a row at a time, and so it's quilting it as I sew it down. It I didn't really like it at first. I'm like, this is kind of, but then after I'm like not looking at it and I go back in the garage to go do something else out there, I'm like, oh, that's so neat. So I will try and get something up in YouTube, and I definitely will get something up on the blog. I've got to go down there today, and I'll probably carry these down there, and we've got freezers in the garage, so I'll have to get food out, and I'll try and get something uploaded to the blog in the coming week. Alright, y'all, I'm going to call it quits today for the live. Don't want to encroach on Sean, and he just started. So I thank you, all of you, for being here, and I appreciate everyone who watches and follows and likes. I really appreciate it. I'm trying to gear myself for retirement. Okay, thanks, Sandra Kay. I'll see you there. I appreciate everyone, and make sure you give a thumbs up if you're watching this after on the replay. Thumbs up, and I'll try and go live more often. It just has not been in the cards. Thanks for watching, everyone.